Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I would like to introduce to you two guys, two mics, and possibly the best sport podcasters in the world, Smack Talk with Smitty and Johnny. Are you not entertained?
Welcome to Smack Talk with Smitty and Johnny. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Smitty. And today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Dave Mogensen of the Iowa Barnstormers indoor football team. A guy that I know very well. I appreciate him having his time and being on the show, and I will let him introduce himself. Mr. Mogensen.
You gave me the great introduction of a special person, so I don't know what I did to be so special, but I am Dave Mogensen. I am the head coach of the Iowa Barnstormers of the Indoor Football League, so can't backtrack from that.
Yeah, he is, and Mr. Mogensen is also the former head coach of the UW Milwaukee Club football team. So, local connections everywhere here.
Yep, I did that. I was with the Blizzard for a couple of years. Way back when I first started, I did some, Wisconsin high school. So, Wisconsin guy, played at Wisconsin Lutheran College. Just happened to be in Iowa for the last 4 years now.
All right. So, Dave, let's open up here. You told us about a little bit of your journey. Tell us how exactly did you get here and just your overview of the game, and then we'll move into a little bit more descriptive questions.
Okay. Well, how I got to Iowa is it's a very strange story with Milwaukee and Wisconsin ties. I was a young coach. This is 2008. I was a young coach. I was coaching high school. At the time, I think I was in MPS. I was Milwaukee Hamilton with Jeff Wallach, helping out there and, helping him run the offense. And I was a young coach, like 2008, was 24, 25 years old, something like that. And I got a call from a guy who I knew who's like, hey, I'm taking over this indoor football team called the Milwaukee Bone Crushers. Gilbert Brown's the coach, but they're really bad and they're firing him and they need coaches for the rest of the year. You want to do it? I was like, yeah, we're going to pay you like $100 a game, practice a couple nights a week. I said, oh, practice at night? All right, sure, I'll do it. I don't know anything about indoor football. I've been to some Milwaukee Mustangs games in the 90s. So I jumped in with the Milwaukee Bone Crushers. It was a giant crap show. Like, the checks I did 8 games with them. Those $800 checks have been in the mail since 2008. I haven't gotten my way yet. I think they're gonna get here someday. Maybe before I die, they'll show up. But that kickstarted it. But I loved it. It was awesome. It was just an awesome experience. It was an awesome game. I spent the next 2 years. That guy who ended up taking over the Bone Crushers, pretty privately wealthy guy, decided he loved it too, and he wanted to create his own team. So he put a team in Madison, Wisconsin in the same league, which is a significantly lower level than where we're at now with the Barnstormers. We did that for 2 years, and we were really good. We went to playoffs 2 years, went to the league championship game. The problem was nobody knew we were good because we got like 500 people to the games. So after 2 years, he was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. I'm not making a penny. I'm actually losing my rear end. So I stopped doing indoor then. I messed around a little bit with the Blizzard, with former coaches, and then the Milwaukee Mustangs. I spent a season with them as a offensive assistant, not really doing anything. They were actually the Iron at that point. They hadn't been the Mustangs again. And then I didn't do indoor football for like 7 years because I was working. I had young kids, and I just, I couldn't. The offers I had to keep doing it were like around the country for very little money. So I didn't do anything. That's when I hooked up with UWM. I was coaching at a couple different high schools. Somebody from UWM reached out to me, a guy that I knew. He had coached for me in high school, and he had played there, and they needed a coach, and I did that. And I was just, telling John, I was like, it was really good for about 3 years. And then we started getting too big for our britches there, and athletic department was not really excited. People were really excited about football because we were not part of the athletic department. We were.
Oh, that never happens, Dave.
Club sports department. I think in 2015, I guess I was there 12, 13, 14. I was there 5 years, actually, to be honest. So 2015, my third year, they built the whole homecoming around us. And we had the homecoming game was like the big deal, like it would be at a high school. And then after that, 2016 is when they're like, yeah, this is never happening again. And they like cut funding, and that's when I left. But then I moved up to Green Bay in 2018, took a job at UWGB, and my good friend Corey Roberson took over as the head coach of the Blizzard and brought me in. So I spent 18-19 with the Blizzard. COVID year, I was going to go back to them, but there was no season. 21, so after COVID, I was kind of like, COVID had everybody different, but I'm like, man, I need to go back and do something that I love and find a way to make it like my career. So I was doing this food service administration, and I was making good money, and I was really good at it, but that kind of spurred me. So 21, I was with the Albany Empire. We won a championship there in the NAL, which is still a step below the IFL. And then I threw my name in the hat for this Iowa Barnstormers job. I'm like, Kurt Warner, Barnstormers, Indoor Football League, like the best league there is for indoor football. 100%. And I got the job. So that's been that. That's how I got here. It's kind of a weird, unique story. I have this long, winding road of football that has intertwined with many people, including Stanley Smith. So that's how I ended up in Iowa for this is my 4th season here. So.
All right, man. That's awesome. So I'm going to lead into the first question. We're going to go kind of back and forth between me and Johnny. And my thing is, and, I have to put my own spin on it because I'm always being a dork towards my great friend and coach of the Iowa Barnstormers. I just like saying that in a sentence. How does the team improve from your 5-11 record? I know it stinks.
Yeah,
I know
sucks.
It stinks, including, I'm sorry, I think you vetted these. Including
I did vet these questions.
I know where 3 losses, including the 3 losses to the Green Bay Blizzard.
Yeah, they took it to us. Now, I will say this. Best season Green Bay Blizzard have had last year since I was there. They were a really good football team last year. We played them close, one-possession games, all 3. So here's our issues last year. We did a lot of soul-searching this offseason because it's 2 years in a row we haven't made the playoffs. Made the playoffs my first year. 2 years ago, we were really bad. We just were bad. Last year, we lost 8 of those 11 games by 1 possession. So it's like, man, we could have been 11-5 and been, top seed in the playoffs. So we did a lot of soul searching, and what we kind of came to from our front office and my assistants and myself and looking at the roster, we felt it wasn't a talent thing. We had enough talent to win every game, as evidenced by the games all being close. It ended up being a attitude, character, and chemistry issue. We had our level's unique. It's not like in high school or college where guys are really attached to the program. A lot of guys are 1, maybe 2 years and gone. Guys are coming here for the sole purpose of using this as a springboard to Canadian League, United Football League, and the NFL. Like that's their goal. So sometimes it can get hard. It can get hard to get guys to buy into the team synergy, team method that you need to win football games, where some guys are solely focused on just their success. So we had issues last year with finding that synergy. So we're hopeful that this year we did a better job of not necessarily recruiting the best athletes we could find. All the guys we got are good elite athletes, but we put more stock into the guy's character, the guy's personality, the guy's attitude. So far, we're 10 days into training or 8 days into training camp, and we've seen that significant difference from last year's group of guys who are super talented, but maybe didn't jive as good, and the guys we got this year who are also talented, but are jiving a lot better with their personality types because we vetted them a lot more.
Well, that's awesome. That leads into the next question, John. I'll let you take it.
And coach, just let me know. Like, obviously, there's a lot of turnover in the IFL because guys are using it as a springboard. But are there any key contributors that are returning this year?
Yeah, so we did. We went 5-11, and we had some guys that we just felt weren't a great fit for how we do things. So we don't have a lot of returners, but we do have a good core guys. The ones that even any kind of semi-casual indoor football league fan will know who our kicker is. He's been all league 3 years in a row. This will be his 4th year with us. He was the special teams player of the year for the league last year, Gabe Rui. So he's pretty much widely considered the best kicker in indoor football. He's had some higher leagues kicking the curb around on him, but kicker's just hard. It's hard to break through because every Canadian team has one kicker. Every UFL team has one kicker. So it's not like they're going to bring, 15 DBs to camp and you get an opportunity. They might bring 2 kickers to camp and that's it. So Gabe Rui's returning as a kicker. He'll be the best kicker in the league again. Keon Williams is returning as a wide receiver. He was all league last year as a rookie, all rookie team. Dynamic guy. He's going to have a great year. Keyshawn Taylor, who started his career, I recruited him to the Blizzard in 2019 when I was there. He played a couple years for the Blizzard. This is his third year with me in Iowa. One of the best receivers in the league. Actually led the league last year in yards per game. I had like 72 yards per game, which doesn't sound like crazy numbers, but remember our field's 50 yards. So if you kind of times that by 2 for outdoor, that's like averaging 140 to 4 yards a game, which is pretty awesome. Tyler Tate's a returning second-year guy. So those four are like the four big returners we have. We do have one guy named Jared Sod, actually a Wisconsin Oshkosh kid, Jared Sod, who played the last like 3 games for us. He's back this year, but he only played a handful of games, 3 games at the end of last season when he didn't get drafted or anything. So he's back for a full season. But those 4 guys, Rui, Williams, Taylor, and Tate, are going to be major contributors for us coming back.
Okay, so you already went into kind of like those players that you think that can make that big leap for you. You kind of explained that in your last question. Any newcomers to watch? What is, you're right in the middle of camp. What are some of those that are just popping out at you that you're like, hey, look here, this guy might be special. This guy might be a key contributor.
Yeah, so we got a few guys that have had really good camps so far. I think for us, offensively, we're going to be that, people call it like an air raid. It's not necessarily the air raid for football, people that know football, but we're going to throw the ball all over the field. It's 4th and 1. We're going to chuck it deep, right? So we got with Williams and Taylor, we got 2 other kids that are, we got really like 3 or 4, but we have 2 kids that are really impressive. Caleb Hood, he's out of Georgia Southern. He spent some time with the New York Giants last summer. So he's dynamic. Jalen Bracey, another dynamic receiver. He was coming out of Florida International. He's from Jackson, Mississippi. Hey. So there's a little connection there, but he went to school Florida International. Another guy that really just dynamic dudes with the ball in their hands. So those 2 guys, really dynamic offensively. A couple other guys on offense that'll make some noise for us. We have a couple of local Iowa D3 guys, Wartburg College guys, really, really good D3 program, made the Final Four, I think the last 3 years in a row. But we got one of our quarterbacks is there, all-time leading passer, Niall McLaughlin. He's battling for the starting spot with a guy named Joaquin Collazo out of Florida. He went to school down in Florida, or grew up down in Florida, went to Bethel College in Tennessee, and just video game like 40 touchdowns and 70% completion and 4,000 yards his last couple of years at Bethel. So those guys duking it out for a starting spot offensively. And then defensively, we have a few guys that really think are going to make some difference. I think our D-line, Stan, you'll appreciate it. I think our D-line is going to be like dynamic, like maybe among the best in the league. So Tyler Tate returning there. We have a nose guard named Rashad Colson who spent some time with the Broncos last summer. He's out of FIU. He did these guys are jumping to the transfer thing. So he spent some time at FIU, then Alabama A&M, cut him a nice check to play his last year there. So spent the season at Alabama A&M. But he's 6'7", 330 pounds, and runs like a 4.9. And bench presses like a house. So he's just a physical freak. Great dude, but he's going to be really tough to handle in the nose. We've got another guy named Patrick Godbolt. He's out of South Carolina State. He spent some time with the Jets last summer. He's about 6'4", 240, probably like 3% body fat. Edge guy, runs a 4.4. 4.45 in his pro day. So just a physical freak up front. And then we got another guy who was a starter at Oklahoma and at Memphis, started like 30 games in the Big 12, named Josh Ellison, another like 3 technique, 5 technique tweener, 6'4", 280. I mean, those 4 guys are going to be as good as anybody in the league. So you want to play good defense, you got to have a good defensive line. And I feel like our defensive line will be by far, as long as they stay healthy and all that kind of stuff, right, which is important, we by far the best D-line I've ever had in my time in Iowa. We got a lot of young DBs. We got a nice linebacker from he played at North Carolina and then transferred to Georgia Southern for a couple of years. So we got some good athletes there. But that D-line is going to drive our defensive success and will help those DBs look good because they're going to be putting some pressure on quarterbacks.
Right. And unlike the NFL, I know, unlike the NFL, those stops are just so important. Having those stops in the IFL is just like 100% key to like getting those, because sometimes, like you said, and that leads us in to the next question. that John is going to get to you about those losses. There you go, John.
I mean, with coach, with you being so high, on a lot of the guys you have, and really sounds like you got some serious talent on defense. 5 of the 11 losses, as you mentioned, when we asked the first question, were by single digits last year. Just how can that luck turn around in 25? You might have kind of answered that with what you were just saying with about a lot of the guys in your defense.
Yeah, I think so. So from a defensive standpoint, like the hard part for rookies to understand is the best defenses in the league, which actually last year statistically during the regular season was Green Bay, and they gave up 33 a game. That's the best defense. So that's almost 5 touchdowns a game as the best defense in the league. So that's hard for sometimes, kids coming out of college. If you're giving up 35 a game, you have one of the worst defenses in your conference, right? So if you're giving up 35 a game here, you're doing awesome. Last year, we gave up 54 a game. So you're not going to win a lot of football games, even in the IFL, giving up 54. So I think we lost 3 of those one-possession games where we scored over 50. So we had an inconsistent offense, but we had a really explosive offense, especially down the stretch. We had some quarterback issues. We had a lot of quarterback injuries. But defensively, that was we had to get better at defense. We don't have to give up 35, but if we give up 42, 43, we're right in the top half of the league. We'll flip that around. So as far as like the single digits, I don't know. I wouldn't attribute it to luck. I would attribute it to us on just a little bit of, cohesiveness and maybe lack of attention to detail overall. Because, you guys are football guys. You talk football on the show. You could pinpoint 5 plays every game on why you won or lost. So we could look at all those losses and go, sometimes even less. Sometimes just 2 or 3 plays. You're like, if we'd have done that, we'd have won. And even when you win, you're like, we won because we did that in those 3 or 4 plays. So every play matters, and you don't really know. We call it a critical control point with the Barnstormers. So we focus on critical control points. Like those are the moments that change the outcome of the game. And it'd be easy if you knew they were coming, right? Like, oh, this next play is a critical control point play. You can sometimes it's obvious, like, oh, you're down by 3 and there's 4th down and 6 and you got to get a first down or the drive's over. Okay, that's an obvious one. But oftentimes you don't know till the play happens. We lost the game last year on a last-second field goal, 55-yard field goal with no time remaining. We lost by 2. We were up by 1. Okay, so that was crappy. But we go back and look at that game, and we were up by like 2 scores, and then we fumbled the snap. My quarterback, who'd been playing great, tried to pick it up instead of just falling on it. Starts fumbling it around, gets tackled, breaks his collarbone. The guy who tackles him picks it up and runs it for a touchdown. And we're like, you know what? If you just fall on that ball, we probably kick a field goal because it's 4th down and field goal range. We go up by 17, and you don't break your collarbone, we probably win that game. And then who knows what happens the next of the run. So sometimes it's just one play. So we focus a lot on those critical control points and talking about those and working on them. So when they happen in a game, we at least have some mental reference of like, oh yeah, we practiced this scenario 2 weeks ago in a critical control point period. And it's a little bit easier than just happening out of the blue.
And finally, Coach, just you mentioned like it's being a 50-yard field, and you mentioned being a 50-yard field, and how giving up 27 points a game is awesome in the IFL as opposed to like college where it's one of the worst defense in the league. Just why don't you explain for our viewers out there who aren't really familiar with the IFL just how it differs, particularly from the NFL or from college or any other game that for lack of better terms, 100 yards.
Yeah, sure. So let's first talk about the Pantheons, because there's a lot of other indoor leagues. There's the Arena League, which at one point was like, that's what the Barnstormers were part of the Arena League when Kurt Warner was here in the 90s and through the 2000s. There's National Arena League, the American Indoor Football Association, the American Arena League. There's all these other leagues, but there is a significant difference in the level of football. So like when I talk about my roster is not unique with the amount of guys we have that have NFL experience. Every roster in the IFL is littered with guys who had a cup of tea in the NFL, didn't make it, cup of tea in Canadian League or the UFL and didn't make it for whatever reason. So the roster-wise and the game talent, it's not quite NFL, right? But if you start watching IFL games, if you haven't done it, or you go to a Green Bay Blizzard game, that's probably the closest one for people watching in Wisconsin, or you happen to be in somewhere where there's an IFL game, you will appreciate the quality of football and the quality of athlete. As far as the gameplay, it's 8-on-8 on a 50 by 29 yard field. So you shrink the field in half, but you only take away 3 guys on each side. So it's pretty fast-paced and pretty intense. There's the wall there, so there's the unique rules of the wall. There's some unique rules to the game, like you can score points by kicking the ball on a kickoff through the uprights. You get 2 points, so there's some uniqueness there. There's you can catch. There's no toe tapping in here, so you can catch the ball, go out of bounds over into the stands, and as long as you caught the ball, it's still a catch. You'll see the highlights of guys flipping over into the end zone and landing on the concrete, but holding the ball up, and that's a touchdown. It's just really, fast-paced football. Kind of all the stuff that is maybe getting a little bit frowned upon in the NFL game because of the violence and stuff. You see a lot of that in indoor. It's just the nature of the game. And then, it's just a fast-paced thing. It's a lot of scoring because it's only a 50-yard field. So if you catch the kickoff at the goal line, even if you get just a regular decent return, you're at the 15-yard line. You only got 35 yards to the end zone, right? So that's like in outdoor football, starting every possession on the other team's 35-yard line, you'd have some pretty high scores. So that's the biggest difference is the field space, the player space. There's unique rules, and there's some different IFL videos about, there's some unique rules about what the DBs can do pre-snap and who can blitz. You can't just be running corner blitzes, stand off the edge and stuff like that, like you can in outdoors. So you can't get super creative defensively, but it's less restrictions than the old school arena league when Kurt Warner was playing here and stuff. But that's the biggest differences between it. It's really good football. It's fast paced. There's some uniqueness to it, but it's just like go all the time. Where some people watch an NFL game or something and they're like, there's a bunch of punting and stuff like that. That doesn't happen very much in this league. Like there is no punting, number one. You can't punt into a ceiling, but it's just very fast paced. Very good athletes, all kind of compressed, compacted field.
All right, so I wanted to jump in here, Coach Mogensen, and just ask you. My biggest thing is that how does this is totally off bar here, but I want to know how does the receivers and the DBs, because you can get that fast motion, because you can get that running start motion. So how do they adjust? Because I always look at that part of the game and because I'm a football coach as well, but on a high school level, you don't have those nuances in the NFL all the way down to the high school level. So how was that adjustment for them? Because like you said, it is so faster. It is so quicker. The ball is out 1, 2, 3. You can't really rely on a running game sometimes because of it is. And then the conflict of the linebackers being in coverage and then really not having to concentrate on the run where you can't draw them in. Explain a little bit of that while we're wrapping up here.
So it's twofold. The first thing is, if you could think back to when you're in high school, if you played high school and college football, when you were in high school, you were one of the better players on the team, if not one of the best players on the team, right? And then you went to college, and everybody in college was one of the best players on their high school team. So everything was just that much faster because everybody was better. And now when you go to professional level, that same thing happens every level you go up. So our guys who are here now, everybody on our team was one of the best dudes, if not the best dude on their college program, right? So we have a team full of great college players facing other teams full of great college players. So the speed in general is just uptick more, right? Even for guys, we got guys who are power 4 players, and even that is still it's still a higher level of play because everybody is that much better. But the motion part, which is not unique to us in indoor, because CFL also has the running forward motion, so it's not totally unique to us. It does change things. That changes defensive schemes. Like there's some teams that let you just have that running start and don't try to stop you. There's other teams that try to what we call bang or redirect. Like they just want to. They have a strong safety, and his only goal is just to knock the crap out of the guy in motion and at minimum make him adjust his motion, not be 100 miles an hour. But the most important part of it, and if you go back and listen to interviews with, I keep referencing Kurt Warner because he's the most famous guy and he played for us, but there's a lot of people over the years that have played indoor and made it to the NFL. We've had many, not just Kurt Warner. I think our most recent one, Jason Matthews, he played on that Seahawks team with the interception. He was on that team. He was a backup wide receiver. And Brian Peters was Chris Matthews, not Jason Matthews. Sorry, Chris Matthews. So
he recovered the onside kick that Brandon Bostic botched. That's how I remember.
Yeah, Chris Matthews. So he was
the stat checker. The stat checker.
Brian Peters is kind of a recent guy. He just recently retired, but he had 2 or 3 contracts. He started his career with us. So we've had a lot of guys who've started here and had successful NFL careers. But those guys will talk about the speed, like being able to adjust to that speed, whether it's defensive back or wide out, understanding the stems that are important for a wide out and how to use that motion. Because that stuff is all transferable to outdoor, even though when you're not motioning. Obviously, if you're going to Canada, it's great because you're going to do that. But the UFL doesn't allow that. That's like really the bigger feeding ground at the NFL these last couple of years is just understanding that stem and understanding how fast stuff happens. And then from a defensive back, if you can get that guy who's running as fast as he can when the ball's snapped and you can cover that dude, you can cover anything you're going to see anywhere. So there's guys in the history of indoor football who are just, phenomenal cover dudes covering that high motion. And there's just, that's where there are subtle differences in techniques and stuff that are unique to indoor. And that's when you have a lot of rookies like we have in camp right now. It's just, you're spending a lot of your training camp just teaching those subtleties. You lean on some of the guys for us, like the Keon Williams, Keyshawn's, Tyler Tates that have done it a little bit before and understand those nuances, because there are nuances in technique that are unique to indoor. But it's not easy to talk to a DB and, he's going to get toasted once or twice. Like we're going to give up 35 points a game, right? So that probably means you're going to give up one or two burn touchdowns a game from somebody, right? Just not even because he blew coverage, just because that guy's running 100 miles an hour and you got to cover him in 0 or whatever, right? So that that's not unheard of. It's not, the best guys give up some big gains here and there.
No, hey, you know what, Coach Mogensen, thanks for the interview, man. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you're helping out me and Johnny here, on our new adventure of just loving sports, man, and talking with people that love sports as well, because we're just two guys that just like to talk. And then we are really kind of trying to tap into the localness of sports and, some sports that people don't really kind of know about. And you know what, they go to a game and then hopefully, they look at this and they're like, hey, you know what? Hey, I know a little bit more about indoor football, and I'm hoping in a couple of weeks here that outcome is a little bit different.
Yeah,
when I have those overpriced cheese fries from Green Bay, from Green Bay, and then I have to have my pretzel, and then that thing's like $4, and I'm like, this Dave is bringing me to this game, man, and I just spent like $15 on food, and then you lost. Come on.
We do open the season in Green Bay in 2 weeks. So Green Bay actually plays on Friday night. They have a week 1 bye. So they'll play a game, and then we come up to Green Bay in 2 weeks I already told Roberson, I said, hey, man, I gave you 3 last year. I need to get this. You got to give me this first one, dude. You owe me one.
Madness kicked off yesterday with the play-in games, but March Madness is officially kicking off, and Smitty and Johnny have Smack Talk with Smitty and Johnny, March Madness special. Coach Dave Mogensen, special guest. He's staying with us after talking about his team, the Iowa Barnstormers. He's staying with us to make some picks and talk about March Madness. So let's get right into it, guys. So, well, first off, let's keep it local. Wisconsin and Marquette. How far do you see them going? Let's start with you, Dave.
So I had the opportunity to go to a bunch of Wisconsin and Marquette games for this little side gig I did in the fall in the off season. And I think Wisconsin goes farther, but Marquette's like a super athletic team. Like they play really good defense, but they have nobody that could shoot the ball. Like I went to games and watched them shoot like 20% from 3 and 30-40% from the line and win a couple, but they lost some really games they should have won because they couldn't shoot. So I think Marquette's a prime upset team for like a first or second round because they just can't shoot very good. But Wisconsin's playing that old school Wisconsin basketball where they're going to grind it out. They're going to piss off the opponent because they're playing at such a slow pace. They got some dudes that can shoot. They got some big guys that can stretch and shoot. And, Tanji can get hot. Blackwell can get hot. And they have guys who can put the ball in the bucket.
Yeah, and think about Wisconsin this year, coach. To that point, you say you got guys who can put the ball in the bucket. The game has kind of changed with them. I mean, they still are more of a deliberate pace. They're not like a run up and down the floor kind of team, but their pace has really picked up the last couple years, especially this year. I feel like Greg Gard has kind of like modernized that offense quite a bit, especially because he hired Kirk Penny, who played for them back in the
Sure.
early 2000s, and that kind of added a different flow into the offense. And Tajay, I mean, talk about a revelation. I mean, this was a guy who averaged 8 minutes a game for like I think it was 8, 9 games for Missouri last year before he got hurt. But he was a double figure scorer for Colorado State, back a couple years ago. So he was a great addition to the team, and I really think that Wisconsin this year, they've got a nice, well-rounded team. They don't rely too much on one guy like they have the last couple tournaments they've been to. And as for Marquette, I think the loss of Tyler Kolek really hurt them. I mean, yes, Cam Jones has evolved into one of the best players in the country, but it seems
Good
like
player.
it's yeah, great player. But he's kind of become more of like a do everything guy for them. They lost also Iguodaro, so along with the shooting woes they have, they also can get hurt on the glass too. So I think Marquette. I got them going to the second round, losing to Michigan State. You know how Michigan State is this time of
Sure.
year. So
Yep.
yeah. But Coach Smith, why don't you give us some insight? What do you got? Who do you like in this tournament? Who are some of your favorites, and who are some of your sleepers? You got some sleepers. I know I got one that you don't like.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna like piggyback here a little bit on. You know what, John? I'm gonna give it to you because I give you credit where credit is due. That was a great analysis, sir. Just top notch. You know what? You had the statistics, you had everything like that. But you know what? When it comes to college basketball, I'm kind of like my wife that goes for the ones with the better uniforms. But you know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, you know what? Their uniforms are better. Blah 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 blah. So I'm gonna
Those
go
people
this
tend
way.
to pick great brackets.
That's true. But I'm going to go with them. I'm going to piggyback off of you guys in Marquette. You know what? First of all, I don't trust usually any college team that doesn't have a football team. So strike one, Marquette. So you know what? I got to go over to Wisconsin. And I'm waiting for no, but in all seriousness, you know what, man? Wisconsin basketball is kind of like Princeton on steroids. Their style and the way that they run the ball, the way that they use movement, the way that they run plays and everything like that, not just depending on one person to get things done, man. It's like Princeton on steroids, man, with their high picks and with their low rolls. To me, sometimes when they are on and they recruit right, they are just a beauty to watch, especially in the tournament, because then they can stagnate players, especially when they have some good defensive guys that can hold you to the half court, the way that they run that shot clock pretty much all the way down. So they're eliminating certain possessions. So you know what? If anybody asks me out of the Wisconsin teams, usually, I can't name half of the guys on Wisconsin teams through the years. But when it came to precision, when it came to them in the tournament, and they are a tough out, you just never know what you're going to get with them. I can't ever go into a Wisconsin game and say, you know what, they're going to lose by 10, because I don't know. Because you know what, they come up with a game plan. They're very strategical in their thinking, and totally 100%. Now on Marquette, once again, like you guys said, piggybacking, a lot of athleticism. You know what? A lot of flash, but once again, coming from the league that they come in, I just expect more out of them because they have to get their tournament big belts on, and they haven't done that in a while. So, from that, I'm gonna go with Wisconsin, and then I will flow it over to you guys. But my biggest thing is that, John, maybe a lot of our viewers don't understand this. I am from the great state of Mississippi, and in Mississippi, you got two teams that really mean something. Now, Southern Miss for us is like the JV team. You know what? They're good, but just not good enough. But at the end of the day, you have Ole Miss and you have Mississippi State. And I am Hail State all the way. Unfortunately, some other people in my family choose to go the other way. I call it the college from up north Mississippi. That's what I call that college. I call them the college from up north Mississippi. And you know what? To our viewers that don't know this, little spoiler alert, somebody magically picked them. And then he keeps saying it over and over again to me. And you know what? I'm trying to hold myself in, and I appreciate John. Like I said, he's probably statistical, and he might even be right.
But I'm going to tell you, like I tell my wife sometimes, can't you just lie to me? Can't you just lie to me sometimes?
No, Coach.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Coach, well, don't appreciate something you're not going to get because I am not going to lie to you. I have Ole Miss coming out of that region, of the South Regional. I have Ole Miss, the 6th seed, coming out of there and going to the Final Four. I do. And
I've got UNC. I've got UNC. I'm going to turn
the
it back
they're
over
playing.
to you.
The team they're playing.
That's the first round.
The team they're playing, I got UNC just out of spite. That is good old Mississippi, old-fashioned hate, spite. UNC. Go Tar Heels. All right, I'll let you move it over.
I have Mississippi State going to the second round if it makes you feel better, Coach. But they're playing Duke. They're playing Duke in the second round, so I just can't pick them to beat
Duke. I mean,
Duke's the champion.
Wisconsin connection at Duke with the Knipple kid, so there's a little Wisconsin connection there.
Yeah.
WLC connection too from his dad and his uncles. So
yeah, I watched him play live once. Like he truly has an advanced skill set. Like
he's an amazing player.
Yeah, reminded me a little bit of Luka when I saw him. Like
I can see that connection. Yeah, I think he plays a little bit more defense than Luka likes to, but similar kind of player.
Yeah.
Subject for another day.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I do, guys. Like looking at my bracket, I've got. I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna say it again, Coach. Sorry, Ole Miss in the Final Four. I got Florida, I got Duke, and I got Tennessee. How about you guys? What are you guys' Final Four?
You know what, John? The thing that I always just concentrate on, I just concentrate on the winner. And I just think that if Duke, with their consistency, I think that they can take it, man. I really think that with Duke, with their consistency, and I'm glad that kind of basketball. See, NIL did some things for football that I'm not too liking, but NIL in basketball is having this bizarro effect that it's actually making it cool to watch again. Players are staying more than 1 year. I mean, it's just basketball is just a different dynamic. So now with all the movement in basketball, you're trying to recruit players that are going to stay through so you can kind of attach to them a little bit. Once again, I give credit to Wisconsin because that is one of those problems that they won't have. You know what? They recruit Wisconsin guys, Wisconsin type of guys, not everybody from Wisconsin, but Wisconsin type of guys. Yep, a lot of Minnesota guys, and those guys stick it all the way through. But if I'm asking for like the all-out winner, I'm just going to go with Duke, man. I just think that when they're on and when they're playing, they just have too much talent, too many people, and then it's not me ball either, man. They play as a team, like you were mentioning Knipple. These guys play. I mean, he will give up the ball.
Flag.
He will see the screen. For Cooper Flag, two generational guys, in my personal opinion. You know what? These guys can play ball, man, and cheers to the coach.
Well, my sleeper is in the same bracket as Florida, so I don't know if Florida's going to get out. Also, St. John's is in that bracket, and St. John's having a heck of a year. But my sleeper, I'm sitting here in Des Moines, Iowa, right now, and Drake is my sleeper, man. Drake is a heck of a good basketball team.
I like that, Dave. I got him in the Sweet 16.
Ben McCollum is such a good coach. Everybody thinks as soon as this runs over, he's going to be the new coach at Iowa. He's from Iowa City. But Drake's my sleeper team. That might screw up everybody's bracket if you're not having them go to the Sweet 16. Like, they're going to screw up some brackets.
Well, what's interesting about that, Dave? In that pod, not only do I have Drake winning in the first round, I have Drake going to the Sweet 16. I have an upset pick that, like, I'm surprised, like, people who I've sent my bracket to, I'm surprised no one has said, like, what are you thinking here, John? I picked UNC Wilmington, the 14th seed, to upset 3-seed Texas Tech. So I think Drake and UNCW are going to play each other in the second round. Drake will win, but I think you mentioned St. John's.
They'll run into St. John's.
Yeah, and that'll be a good game, I think. That could go down to the final minute, but I do think St. John's will outlast them. I mean, I had a hard time picking Florida over St. John's. Like, St. John's looked really tough all year, but Florida, they just have so many weapons on their team, and I got them going to the championship game, losing to Duke. So yeah, I got Coach. I'm sorry, I'll be nice. I do have them beating Ole Miss in the Final Four, so it's not like I have Ole Miss winning the championship.
You know what? You know, Dave, John, you know, I call you this, but you are the king of deeds, is that, my friend? You are the king of deeds. I really appreciate that you kind of like sweeping that under the rug, because at the end of the day, Ole Miss will be on the couch. And I'm okay with that.
He's picking Ole Miss to lose the first round.
Yeah,
to the play.
I'm picking them, like I said. You know what? Okay, guys, I'm going to go to this sidebar. So when people are watching this and they don't be like, "Oh, Coach Smith is an Ole Miss hater." Yes, but
can he be objective?
You know what? Not with them, but. Let me put it this way to you, John and Coach Mogensen. When you were in Mississippi, Mississippi State is in Starkville. If you look on their roster, basketball, football, or whatever, a lot of in-state guys. You know what? You bleed and you breathe Mississippi State. But then that team up north that's next to Louisiana and Alabama and you know, and Tennessee, you know, then you look at their roster and it looks like NIL already had took over 10 years ago, because they have jokers from everywhere. And then they're always like the Ole Miss, and then they're being the Rebels and everything like that. And I'm like, Mississippi State is like a true in-state school to me, because they really don't have a lot of borders and they do really pull from Mississippi. And I'm like, you know what, man? I mean, I was just born and raised. I don't know why I have like a cowbell in my hand. I think I have, or whatever. But
or cowbell.
You know, just a stark Mississippi State fan, man. And you know what? My sister went to Ole Miss. You know, and that's the funny part. Sister went to Ole Miss. Dad,
that might have something to do with it.
You know, Dad is an Ole Miss fan too, and he's always like this. Hey, man, you see them Rebels? I was like this. No, Dad, I didn't, because I don't care. But either way, that's all I'm at. Switching back to you, John. What do we got before we go into that magical bell, so John can take in the mystery of Johnny Talks and Smitty Rants? I'll let you close our NCAA, and I'll see if you hear that bell.
Well, I'll say about, if we're talking about Duke, I said Duke is going to win the championship, and I stand on that. But if there is a round in which I think they could be beat, and it's not necessarily because I think this is the best team they'll face, I think Oregon could upset them in the Sweet 16.
That's fair.
Because if you see, because anybody who's watched a lot of March Madness the last few years, they've seen like Oregon under Dana Altman, they often go far in the tournament, and when they do lose, it's always like you've got a battle on your hands if you want to beat them in the tournament. Like, and I think Oregon, like, you know, because think about it, because you get to Sweet 16, you know, you got that leg period, because you got, you know, this weekend's games, which are 2 games, and then you got a few days off, and then you get into the Sweet 16. Like, that's where that prime letdown territory could be, and Oregon is that kind of team. I mean, Michigan State is back as a 2 seed this year. They're the other team that just, you know, usually kills it in March, and I have them losing to Ole Miss in the Sweet 16, but I think Michigan State could easily come out of that region. You know, Auburn, they're the overall number 1 seed, but I don't know. The way Auburn finished the season, I'm not really sold on them. I think Michigan State or Ole Miss is probably going to come out of that region. I wouldn't even be surprised if Auburn lost in the second round to Louisville. Like, Louisville looks real tough. They have remember Chucky Hepburn, who played for the Badgers last year. His game really blossomed this year with Louisville. Like, he made a lot of good plays for the Badgers, but he really came up with Louisville this year. Now, the bottom corner of the bracket, where I got Tennessee coming out of there, that Midwest region, I don't think that's a very strong regional. I really don't. I think that's the weakest bracket in here. I do like a big upset out of there, though. I like High Point to beat Purdue. I also like Akron to beat Arizona. So I got 2 4 seeds going down in the first round. So,
you know what, John? You kind of have me, man. Like, one as a little parlay better in me is that, should I have my notebook out when you talk? Because I'm like, that's it. What are we going to do here? Can I get some upsets? And, you know, can I make a little bit extra money to buy mama a new pair of shoes? But no, very, very well said, John. Yeah, I agree with you. I did look at the other region, And I did see that. I do agree with you about that weaker region, because I was just wondering, what was some of the committee saying about that. But yeah.
All right, Dave. So what are you thinking about the rest of the bracket? Like how far do you have Wisconsin going? You said Marquette. Like how far do you have the teams going?
I don't. I'm going to be fully honest with you. I don't really fill out brackets per se. I just don't have the time to do it. So, looking at it, like your assessment, Oregon. I was at the Wisconsin-Oregon game at the Kohl Center that went into overtime. Oregon's a really good basketball team. I think Wisconsin's a team that could go. They have all the necessary stuff to go really deep, and they can make the Final Four. They could probably beat Duke in the right scenario, right moments, play really good basketball. They have enough talent and good coaching staff to beat Duke. But in my head, Duke is the favorite. Cooper Flag, Cup, the other guy, or Knipple, the other guys they have. Football in my mind is Cooper Flag, and I automatically think Cooper Cup. Yep. But like Duke's really good. Florida's really good. St. John's really good. Houston's really good. There's teams in there, but I think there's going to be a lot of there's going to be a lot of upsets. Same way that NIL has created the college football landscape to be much more open to a lot of teams. I think you're seeing that in basketball too. I mean, I think freaking Grand Canyon could knock off Maryland in the first round. Like, they have a couple dudes.
Yep.
I watched Grand Canyon play in their conference championship. Yeah, they're athletic. They got some.
I didn't even know they had a basketball team till like 2 years ago. And I thought they were an only online school. Next thing I know, I'm like, Grand Canyon has a basketball team. Now they're like one of the best teams in the country.
Hey, you know what, Dave? I actually got my master's from Grand Canyon. So as a joke, sometimes in school, I'm always like, "Go Lopes!" But but no, for real though, man. Yeah, you're right. It has definitely changed the landscape.
Yeah. Yeah, but but I'm just, I'm excited for it. It's always my favorite sporting event of the year. March Madness. I've been a loyalist for March Madness since I would say 2004. I would say so. Over 20 years. I still have a big poster board where I draw the brackets out. Like that's awesome. How much I love. That's how much I love it, man. That's how much I love it. But Coach, I'm hearing something. I'm getting a sign.
What's that time? Is it about that time?
What time is it? Oh,
I don't know.
I think I know. It is time for Johnny Talks and Smitty, Rants. All right. So my talk today, I want to talk about like postseason, particularly like with bowl games and with like consolation basketball tournaments, and how many teams will decline invites or how many players will decline to play in those games. Especially you see the players declining to play in the football bowl games, and you see teams declining to play in like the NIT when they don't get invites to the NCAA tournament. And there's a couple other postseason pay-to-play tournaments that are out there called the CBI, and I forget what the other one's called. But the thing is, like back in the 2000s, like this was unheard of. All the guys suited up for the bowl games in football. If you did not go to the NCAA tournament, you would go to the NITs. Every once in a blue moon, a team would decline an invite to the NIT. But I kid you not, that was a whole news story when that happened. Like back in the 2000s, like I remember Maryland declined one year and it was all over ESPN. Like Maryland declined the invite to the NIT after being snubbed out of the NCAA tournament. Like that was a huge story back then. And the NIT, because it would get all of the best teams that did not make the NCAA tournament, combined with the teams that finished at the top of their small conferences who didn't win their conference tournaments, because it used to be where if you did not win your conference tournament, but you finished at the top of the regular season standings in a conference, you got an automatic berth to the NIT. Just like if you win your conference tournament, you get an automatic berth to the NCAA tournament. The NIT used to be quite the event. Even though obviously the NCAA tournament was bigger, the NIT was still quite the event. You'd see a lot of the games on ESPN, and the Final Four of the NIT was always at Madison Square Garden in New York. But this nowadays and I feel it is a transfer portal and a transfer portal thing, like transfer portal NIL thing. I think teams, if they don't go to the NCAA tournament, they just want to get their offseason started right away. They want to, even if it's just like a 2 or 3 week head start, they want to know which players they can get. If they fired their coach, if they're firing their coach like Indiana just did, they want to get their next coach hired right away. They don't want to play like because I'll mostly focus this on basketball right now. They don't want to play what a lot of people would call meaningless basketball. And the same with football, though. Like, if you don't make the CFP, a lot of guys don't want to play in exhibition bowl games. It just is what it is. And I think I have my criticisms of it. I'm not going to go too much into that, but I'm just going to say I think just the whole landscape of, transfer portal, NIL has caused a lot of guys to just choose not to play, or choose not to play, or like in the NCAA, like the whole team will decline the invite just because they want to get their off season started. So yeah, that's kind of my talk for the day.
You know what, John? That was very articulate, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Very important subject. You know what? And I agree with you about how it changed the landscape. But for my rant, I thought about a lot of different things, John. I thought about the NBA and the players and load management. I thought about kind of the NIL thing and what was going on. But you know what, John? What keeps drawing me back, and I don't know if Coach Mogensen has seen our other episodes, but what keeps drawing me back, John, is one subject. The dang gone Cowboys. You know what? I try, John, every show to not. I actually went off topic a little bit the other time. But you know what, John? I can't. Every time I see us, John, we picked up a running back that was good 3 years ago. We picked up a cornerback that was good 4 years ago. And then I'm on these websites and saying the Cowboys have picked up another former, once again, the key, former first-round pick. Oh, for the awesome price of 1 year for $3 million. Once again, John, I made this pun last week. We're shopping at the Burlington Coat Factory. We are going in, John, and we're looking around. Oh, what's the deal of the day? Let's get one for $1 million. Let's get one for $2 million. Because that is just, you know what, John? I have been a football fan pretty much all my life. All right. And unless Jerry Jones have found the key to fortune, I have never seen out of my 35 years on this earth this method ever working. Ever. I don't understand. And then everybody's like this, big moves here. There's not a big move, Jerry. I just don't understand. And I do get passionate about this because the Cowboys are America's team. You know what? You know how I got hooked on the Cowboys, John? My stepdad was watching Cowboys, Emmitt Smith winning championships. I was on it. I was like, boy, this is great. And you know what he told me? This one cheesy quote that I still use to this day. He was like this: hey, if you get lost in the middle of nowhere and you are in the desert, what do you try to find? The North Star. Because that's America's team. As cheesy as it sounds, I still repeat that from my stepfather. So it hurts me that for 35 years I followed this team, and Jerry just hurts me. And you know what? I'm going to try to find another topic next week. But what is up with this Marshall's TJ Maxx stuff that we're doing? It's like Marshall and TJ Maxx. Oh, let me look on the top shelf. Maybe I'll find something from Gucci. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on. come on, man. Like I do every week, John. My hand goes up. And I say to myself, I love you, Cowboys. I love you, Jerry. But in the great words of Joey Swole, like I used last week from YouTube, you got to do better. I'm good. You know what, Dave? I'm going to invite you. We got just a couple minutes left here. Because I know you're in all PR with the IFL and everything, but is it anything, Coach Mogensen, that you would like to leave us with? You can leave us with how do people get tickets to the Iowa Barnstormers game? You can leave us with some insight on the season before we close it out.
Well, I want to comment on your Cowboys because you forgot about their biggest free agent announcement of the offseason thus far is they re-signed their long snapper to a 3-year deal. They were really excited about it. They had a big post on Facebook or so X. I saw it somewhere that big announcement, re-signed their long snapper for like $18 million over 3 years. So
huge.
You forgot about that one. As far as me, I'm not going to get you pegged me correct. I'm not going to give any fodder for fans that may not like me because we haven't been to the playoffs 2 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
To post crap about me, but yes, come to games, support the Green Bay Blizzard if you're in Wisconsin. I hope to make you sad if you're a Green Bay Blizzard fan at least twice when we visit the Resch Center this year, including in 2 weeks. But I appreciate what you guys are doing. I have watched the episodes that you sent me. I know you guys are in your infancy of a podcast, but you guys have good banter together. So it's been fun to watch, and I will watch the remaining ones, not just the one I'm on. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We appreciate you coming on, Coach. It was real great. It was a real great conversation.
And Dave, we appreciate you. Thanks 100% for the kind words. And then if I didn't say this, I have to start saying this at the end because I don't know why I like saying this, but I just have to say it. John, you're the king of deeds, my friend. Good show.
Much love, Coach.
Adios.
Maybe one day your
Dave
Cowboys
Mogensen.
will make you happy.
You know what? You were the king of deeds. See, you were close.
Okay. I recant, Coach.
Now you were the king of deeds. But you know what? On that note, Dave, like I said, you know what? Been a close friend of mine for a long time. I really appreciate you supporting what we're doing. I love supporting what you're doing. I love to see you grow from that high school coach to the awesome guy that you are now, man, leader, and professional coach. And all I have to do is tip my hat to you. I appreciate everything that you do, and obviously all of the lives that you've touched. And I appreciate you, Dave. And just thanks for giving us something to talk about, man, and letting us know and getting the insights in your world.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I don't need the grease job, but I appreciate the kind words, Stan, and our friendship has stood the test of time for many, 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 many years. I mean, I remember we were roommates way back when working Wisconsin Whitewater football camps. And
yes, sir.
15, 20 years ago, we were roommates in those un-AC dorms at Wisconsin Whitewater in the early 2000s. So,
yeah, you guys were hot boxes.
Yeah.
Yep. It was a straight up hot box.
Yeah.
But hey, appreciate it. Hey, John, I will let you close, my friend.
Well, once again, Dave Mogensen, special guest. Thanks for coming on, my friend. Really appreciate it. And this has been Johnny. This has been Smack Talk with Smitty and Johnny.
This has been Smack Talk with Johnny and Smitty. Consider yourself entertained. Make sure that you like, follow, and share.